bazillion pop figures over here. There's a pop figure worth $100,000 right there. 100 grand of Freddy Funko, which I think they give those out at Comic-Con. It might be an exclusive one. It might be like an original Freddy Funko. I don't know why, but it is 100 grand for one pop figure on that shelf up there. That's crazy. Look at that Galactus. Marvel Legends HasLab, $600. Why? What is, if you don't mind me asking, why is it up to $600? How hard is it to find?
You had to pre-order it from HasLab, and that was the retail cost from Hasbro, $600.
Oh, wow. That thing is awesome.
Completely sold out.
I was walking by and these awesome Transformers caught my eye. Can you tell me a little bit about these?
This is the Nemesis Prime, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. Imagine if he was like a Decepticon. All these are super like massively posable. The statue meets adult like action figures like of your dreams, right? Like over 300 movable pieces. It's all die cast and metal. Very high detailed. The eyes glow. The chest also glows. If you don't like the all black Decepticon Optimus Prime, we have the real Optimus Prime over here. He has the Matrix of Leadership, so you can move his chest. You can open it. You can pose them pretty much however you want. They're really, really, really cool. But this is one of our biggest selling items. They are selling for $3,000 right now.
Look at this life-size Iron Man. Mark 85 from Avengers Endgame. $18,000 for this Iron Man from LM Treasures. They have all the Avengers out here, including Thanos and the Hulk up top. I see this Iron Man. He is my favorite character. If there was one thing I could take home from Comic-Con, I wish it could be this, but it's $18,000, dude.
Yeah, so we specialize in life-size statues. We mainly only focus on life-size statues. We've been in business 24 years, and this particular piece is one of our most expensive Iron Mans that we carry. He's a limited run. They only made 299. They were sold out really quick.
What's your personal favorite that you have?
You know, my personal favorite is our Slimer.
According to the sign, this is valued at $1,699.
And that does include free shipping, so we handle logistics for you guys, yeah.
So you guys made this one?
Yeah, so we designed this in-house. We got it manufactured. They're made in Mexico, actually. And so there's only 75 of them. They glow in the dark. So the paint actually has like a fluorescent paint where when you put a black light on it, it actually glows in the dark.
So if I come in here at night, it's strictly just to see it glow in the dark. It's not to steal it, I swear.
Yes, absolutely.
Right behind us, this has to be one of the coolest cases I have seen in all of Comic-Con, and I imagine also probably one of the most expensive collections on this show floor. Talk to me about what we're standing in front of, please.
Yeah, most people are used to seeing replicas at Comic-Con. This is the real stuff from Star Wars, right? This is a real Stormtrooper helmet from A New Hope, the very first film. It came from John Mallow, who created the Stormtrooper, who actually designed it. This is worth between $250,000 and $500,000.
Okay, how do you acquire that? How do you guys find these things?
You know, we're at Heritage Auctions. We're the largest collectible auction house in the world. So we have clients from, you know, every walk of life. And this is one person's collection, John Azarian. We're selling it as one of the best Star Wars collection in the world. It's all from him.
So before we talk about everything in here, if this whole thing were to be sold at one time, if I were to say I want the whole case, how much do you think I'd have to fork over?
I mean, this is at least $1 million case. Yeah, you got Stormtrooper, you got Luke's blaster from Empire, so there's 500,000. Yeah, it's $1 million, easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so over here, what do we have?
You know, this is from Force Awakens. It's signed by the cast. It's probably $30,000 to $50,000.
The lightsabers?
Yeah, they're really cool. So what's great is people don't understand, like, the blades are green because in the green screen, they would need these blades to actually simulate fighting, so they'd hit each other. This one has the carbon fiber in it. So then they would go in and, you know, add the CGI effect of the lightsaber. So you've got Obi-Wan and you've got Qui-Gon from Phantom Menace.
That's unbelievable. Do you have a thing in here?
Yeah, I'd probably say the Stormtrooper. There's only 5 or 6 that have survived production from that film. Remember, super low budget. You know, you're talking about 1977. Not much from that movie exists.
And then as we get lower on the shelf here, I mean, I'm seeing lightsaber hilts.
Yeah, you've got Anakin Skywalker from Revenge of the Sith. This is Luke's blaster from Empire. So it's pretty cool. This is from Empire, a Rebel Trooper helmet. And then you have different lightsabers. This is Count Dooku. This is Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu. And this is actually Carrie Fisher. This is her snow speeder that was used in The Empire Strikes Back. This actually came from her. She raffled this off years ago. There's a signed photograph from Carrie to our client, John Azarian, with the actual snowspeeder. Great, and a letter from Mark Hamill. That one you can't get better provenance on.
So is that like a mini model that was used in the film?
Yeah, it's a miniature. So like there are different size miniatures. There are miniatures that are little and there are miniatures that are huge. It's just a phraseology, right? So yeah, that was something that was used for special effects.
When you're at Comic-Con, when this show closes down at night, what do you do with everything that you leave out on the floor? Just leave it out here at night?
Send it back to the force. No, we have these giant safes.
Oh, I was wondering what this was.
Yeah, some of the employees sleep in these, but you know, we can't afford rooms always. But no, seriously, we put everything in these safes at nighttime. People's property's protected. They're transported back and forth to our Beverly Hills office by armed guard. So, you know, everything's on lockdown.
Metropolis Collectibles looks like they have one of the most expensive collections at Comic-Con, and I want to go meet this guy.
What we have right behind me is the Bobby Blue collection. It's an incredible name collection. CGC recognized it, and we're starting to auction it off in this auction. We have an incredible selection of books. What makes it so special is when Bobby Blue was born, he's almost 90 now. When he was born, his father every week would take a dime out of his paycheck and buy a new comic book for his newborn son. And his hopes were that his son would have this comic book collection that he would read as he learned to read as a kid. And he did this all through the 1950s, and is over thousands and thousands of books in this collection. He obviously spent more than a dime a week. So here's the first selection of it. And what we have here is the first appearance of Archie in a comic book in PEP 22. Super rare book, very hard to find, and there it is. We also have a Chamber of Chills number 19, one of the hottest pre-code horror comic books in existence, and a gorgeous Mask number 1. The colors are so bright on this book by L.B. Cole, one of the greatest cover artists of the Golden Age.
So if this entire case here sold all at once at one price, what do you think it's worth, just off the top of your head, if you had to guess?
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I would say we're close to $1 million just here. One of the coolest comic books we have is called the Paquito. Paquito is right here, and it's a weekly newspaper that came out, or magazine that came out, and it came out in 1938. And the way they introduced Superman, which is the same year that Action Comics #1 comes into the United States, right? The Mexican publishers were publishing their version. The way they did it was more like a Sunday strip. This has the first page of Superman in Mexico. Wow. And it's just incredibly rare.
This right here is one of the coolest cases I've seen at all of Comic-Con. It's got books that we're all going to recognize.
So the first thing I want to say is that when I was a little kid, if you ever told me I'd have any type of selection of comic books like this, my mind would have exploded. This is a thrill of a lifetime for me to be able to pursue a career in comic books. I've been doing this for over 37 years, and I'm just as excited today, as you might be able to tell, as I was when I was a little boy exploring and learning about comic books. But I want to show you some cool stuff that you don't always get to see at comic book conventions. So first thing, this is my favorite superhero of all time.
The Holy Grail.
Amazing Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15. And a lot of people don't really know, why is it called Amazing Fantasy 15? How did it start? So basically, Marvel Comics was publishing a comic book called Amazing Adult Fantasy. And it had issues 1 through 14. They were trying to appeal to an older demographic. It didn't work very well. So the last issue, they said, let's take off the word adult and let's introduce a superhero. It's our last issue, let's give it a shot. And they came up with a beaut. Spider-Man. First appearance of Spider-Man.
If I wanted to leave Comic-Con with that, an 8.0 copy, what do I have to fork over?
A mere bag of shells, 600,000. Let's go back to the Silver Age. X-Men #1. CBCS graded 9.0. This is a knockout. Very tough to get in high grade. We sold a 9.6 for, I believe it was $873,000 last year. Or maybe it was this year. And this is a 9.0. This is a beautiful copy. It's priced at $125,000.
9.0. Oh my gosh. Is that
You
Iron
like the
Man down there?
Avengers.
I'm a big Avengers guy, big Iron Man fan. Let's talk about him.
You like Iron Man?
I see that Iron Man down there. Yes. This is unbelievable. Daredevil in the yellow suit. Come on.
Who's who, a cornucopia, you might say, of Silver Age Marvels. I love the Silver Age Marvel characters. So you got the first appearance of Iron Man, Tony Stark, the book that was a blockbuster for comic book fans when the movie came out. When the preview showed up here at San Diego Comic-Con, I think it was 2005 when it came out. I've never had this experience before. People kept coming up to me after the trailer was seen. They're like, oh my God, the new Iron Man movie looks awesome. And I was like, and over, I kept hearing this. So 3 weeks later, I was at Chicago Comic-Con. I walked around the room and bought every single copy I could in the room, brought it back to my office, marked them up 30%. They were all gone within 4 weeks. Wow. It was incredible. This is the first appearance of Iron Man. It's such a cool cover, such a cool comic book, and it's very nostalgic and very iconic. And then, of course, you have all the great Marvel heroes, Ant-Man and Wasp, Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and then they bring them together to fight Loki in the Avengers. And man, really cool book.
And it's going for $28,500 here at the show.
This book could be yours for $28,500.
How often at Comic-Con do people come up and buy books like this?
All the time. That's why we're here. We're selling comic books anywhere from a few $100s all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've had seven-figure shows here at San Diego Comic-Con, and it's been really exciting for us over the years.
Okay, we need to talk about a couple DC books you have here as well.
Yeah, we did the Marvel side.
Yeah.
Now we got to do the DC side.
This.
And this is a sick display. I love bringing the big guns to these conventions. And you could walk around this entire convention. You might see a Batman #1 in another booth, but you're not going to see two. And you're definitely not going to see two Detective Comics 27s. And you're definitely not going to see this baby. This is super cool, very historical. This is the Detective Comics 27 personal copy of the creator of Batman, Bob Kane.
How did you get that?
I have my ways. There's a saying in our business, knowing where the bodies are buried. So
You're the world's greatest detective.
yes, screw Batman. I'm the world's greatest detective. No, so what's really great about this is it was in a ring binder, as you can see here, and it was Bob Kane's copy. I also have the case he held it in and carried it around in back at the office, and it's super cool. Very rare, very impossible to find, one-of-a-kind historical artifact. This is the creator of Batman's personal copy. It is really cool in the sense that when you look at the inspiration for Batman's designs, you can see that Kane used Leonardo da Vinci's glider as an inspiration for the cape so that Batman could kind of fly, and that's really cool. This copy is on sale here at the convention for $750,000. Priceless, in my opinion.
Honestly, it's literally the only one in the world.
And if you can't afford a $750,000 copy, maybe $475,000 is more in your price range. And here is a restored 9.0. Just to give you some perspective, this is a restored copy. It has the purple label. That's fine. People love to buy restored copies. People love to buy unrestored copies. It depends on your budget and what your goals are. But if you were trying to find a 9.0 unrestored, you're probably talking at this time probably $7 million. So at $475,000, this is a steal.
What's the most expensive book you've ever collected and sold?
So what's great is my company was on the forefront of record-breaking sales for decades. And I'm proud to say I was the first person in the world to sell a comic book for $1 million. And we were the first company to sell a comic book for 1.1, 1.5, 1.75, 2.2, 3.2, and $4.7 million.
What book went for $4.7 million?
Almost all of them were Action Comics #1s. We do have Superman #1. Kapow, blam. Here we go, Superman #1.
Twice over.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this comic book is that it reprints the first 4 stories from Action Comics 1 through 4, the first 4 Superman stories. So if you missed out on those, you get to read them again here. So it has the origins of Superman, early adventures of Superman, and these are just super, super cool.
And how much are these going for?
Well, this one's $135,000, and this one is, I want to say, $275,000. Yeah.
The comics are one thing, but you bring more than comics. You bring pieces of comics history to Comic-Con.
Yeah, we're really excited. We just got in our offices on consignment for our event auction, again, starting July 31st and ending the week of August 21st through the 25th. Very historical letters written by, to say disgruntled is an understatement. Co-creator of Superman, Jerry Siegel, was very unhappy with how he was treated by DC Comics, and I'm sure DC Comics felt that they treated Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster very fairly in all things considered with their agreements. But what we have here are some historic letters that are just mind-blowing. So in this letter, Jerry Siegel is talking about how unhappy he is with how he was treated and how Superman and Superboy were appropriated from him. This is to Harry Donenfeld, the publisher of DC Comics. It sounds like something straight out of a comic. As long as I live, and afterwards, I shall haunt you and yours. Before God, I put a curse on you.
In all caps.
In all caps. And it is mind-blowing to imagine. And we were fortunate enough to have these consigned to us, and we're going to be bringing them to the public. I think these are incredibly important historical documents of one of the greatest battles, the battle for Superman. This is extraordinary.
And how much do you think something like that sells for?
Your guess is as good as mine. I could see these going, you know what, I don't even want to take a guess because it's any number I put out there, I could be completely wrong. Here's another one to Harry Donenfeld. Says, "Dear Harry, today is Father's Day. I cannot support my son because of you." I mean, that is pretty serious stuff. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And one of the other ones, not so much of conflict, is really cool. This is from March 3rd, 1939. Dear Mr. Leibowitz, I don't think it would be amiss to pass the tip along to Siegel and Schuster to develop some kind of Achilles heel for Superman. This is years before kryptonite was invented, and maybe this letter is what spurred on the idea of some type of weakness for Superman. This is incredible. I mean, you just don't see stuff like this.
At Comic-Con, do celebrities ever come up and make purchases from you? Do you know any geek celebs?
We've had a lot of celebrities we've bought and sold comic books with. Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Hamill, and a lot of other very famous comic book collectors. But one of the most famous is Nicolas Cage, and we were his exclusive dealer for years, and we sold him almost his entire collection. But what was really cool is we sold him his Action Comics #1. Now Nick is a very passionate guy about comic books, and he liked to share his comic books with his guests when they came to his house. And one night he had a party, and in the party he had all of his shadow boxes where he had his comic books on display, unlocked, and the security system was off because he was wanting to show his comic books to his guests. Somebody stole 3 of his comic books, one of them being his Action Comics #1. My partner Stephen Fischler flew out to California, helped with the investigation, and told Nick in no uncertain terms, sooner or later this comic book will surface, and when it does, we will get it back for you. Fast forward, I believe it was about 13 years later, we're at our offices, and one of our employees gets a call from somebody with an Action Comics #1. He wouldn't leave a number, but talk to us about it, and luckily he did call back. And when he called back, we got all his information, and he sent a picture. And as soon as he sent the picture, it was easily recognizable that this was Nick Cage's Action Comics #1. And the reason for that is, it was like, it had a very unique misprint, 3 or 4 little dots of white in the blue masthead at the top. And what's interesting about it is almost like a fingerprint. So no other copy has that. So as soon as my partner Steve saw this, he goes, "That's Nick's copy." Called up Nick, called the head detective who was on the case. He was still at the police precinct, told him about the lead he had, then booked a flight, flew out to California. The next day he goes to the police precinct, and the head detective says, "Okay, we're going to go in, meet with this person, but if anything goes crazy when we tell them what's going on, if anybody pulls a gun, don't be a hero. You hit the floor and I'll take care of the rest." My partner going, "No problem." so they get out there, they go and meet with the person, and apparently somebody had found it in a storage unit. And the person who was representing it was one of the hosts of Storage Wars, a guy named Mark Bellella. And as soon as they knew it was the comic book, Steve said to the detective, "Yeah, this is a really beautiful book. This is the book." And then the detective said, "Hey, this was a stolen book." Explains the situation. We need to take this, and he was very accommodating to the whole situation. And basically after that, they cleared the way after a few weeks for us to auction the comic book for Nick, and it ended up selling for what was then a record price of $2.2 million.
Wow. You are the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, me and my partner Steve. Well, that one I got to give it to Steve on that. Yeah.
That whole thing sounds like a Nick Cage movie in itself.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.